before it. And the idea of this session is to sort of get you familiar with the cloud computing concepts with Microsoft Azure, and these series are all about to aid you in getting started in your cloud computing journey ahead. So that's the whole idea. So without any further ado, let's get started. I think someone is unmute. I would. Can you please mute yourself? Okay, I'm sharing my screen. I hope my screen is visible, right? Can I get a thumbs up reaction? Great. Thank you. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Okay, so we are getting started with the fourth session. Oops, sorry. And in today's session, we're going to be discussing Azure Identity Access Management. All right, this is the fourth session. Yeah, one second. Sorry. Let me just reshare. How do I stop sharing? Great. One second, guys. I would need to reshare my screen. Are you still able to see my screen? Yes or no? Can you please just let me know in the chats? No, right? Okay. Let me just real quick. I'm sure. Okay. Yeah, I'm sharing, resharing it again. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I hope it is up now. It should be up now, right? Great. Thank you so much. All right, guys. So today marks the fourth session of our AZ900 series at IIT Madras, and today we are going to be discussing Azure Identity Management. So before we get started, for the people who are new here, as I saw there are a couple of them and even on the live stream, so let me give a quick, brief introduction about myself. All right, I know a couple of you already are familiar with my introduction, but let me do it for the ones who newly joined. So, hey guys, I'm Navika and Navika Chowda, and I am professionally an Azure Cloud Engineer at a Fortune 400 company. Apart from that, I am also a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional in Azure for 3 consecutive times, which speaks about my area of expertise, that is cloud computing, Azure, and literally everything related to it. I've also been linked to topwise in the category of cloud computing, the former. I've done my diploma in programming from IIT Madras. I think that's the familiarity and the similarity between you guys and I. So that's one. And apart from that, tech communities has been an integral part of my journey. I've got some great opportunities, like I've been a speaker at Microsoft Ignite, judged a couple of hackathons like Microsoft Imagine Cup Junior, mentored hackathons like Tech Together Seattle, Hackathon Seattle and Chicago. Apart from that, I'm really passionate about tech for good cause, and I keep running a lot of tech for good initiatives to make technology accessible to everyone. And I think the work that I have done, I have been awarded with Women's Achiever of India, India Book of Record holder, and a couple of more. So that's a bit about myself. And yes, and feel free to connect with me on my social media handles. LinkedIn, I'm pretty active over there. YouTube, I have my tech chat with Navika podcast over there. So just in case you guys, so that's all about Azure and cloud computing again. Okay, so we deep dive into each of the Azure topics, every time with new speakers. And yeah, so feel free to visit there as well. And yeah, that's my Twitter handle. So that's those are my credentials. I'll just be on the screen for the next 3, 4, 5 seconds, just in case you would like to take a screenshot or something of that sort. Though we would be having a few minutes for the Q&A towards the end, but just in case you have questions later on, feel free to send me, connect me on LinkedIn, send me a message over there. I'll ensure to answer your question. All right. Great. Moving forward, what's the agenda for today? So here we are. So first, we're going to be doing a quick recap of what we have done in the previous sessions. Quick 5 minutes recap. Then, so today, as the topic is access management, identity management. So we're going to be discussing about Microsoft Entra ID. What are the different ways of authentication? What is Azure external identities? What is conditional access, RBAC, zero trust model, defense in depth approach, and all of that stuff. I know all of these jargons and terminologies could be very new to you right now, but don't worry. Towards the end of the session, today's session is going to be like 30 minutes. I don't think so, not more than that. So towards the end, you would be familiar to all of these terminologies. All right, great. Okay, now for the people who have joined for the first time, so I just thought of having this slide. These series are about, so you should be knowing the what you're actually attending. So these series is all about Azure fundamentals. Azure fundamentals, it's also known as AZ900. It's basically a basic Azure certification by Microsoft. So in the series that we are doing, we're covering the course for that, all right, like majority of the course, so that in case you are interested in getting into the field of cloud or Azure, or you want to sit for this examination, these sessions will aid you in the preparation of that, all right. And these sessions are also all about, for the people who want to start their cloud career journey or Azure journey. So it's actually for them. To be really frank, these sessions are literally for everyone in a way, I would say. Even for the people who literally have no knowledge of cloud or Azure, it's for them as well, because we have covered everything right from the scratch, right from level zero, right? And for the people who already have slight knowledge but are not that much into it, these sessions are for those as well. So we are literally catering, these sessions are curated in a way which caters to all type of audience, right? In terms of how much are you knowledgeable in the field of cloud. So it's literally, it covers every and then in case you think that you have missed sessions, I'd really recommend you to please go watch the previous sessions recording, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Now I'm gonna clear your doubts. All right, now if you talk a little bit about the AZ900 exam, you can search on the net as well. You'll get to know about the course and all, but on the Microsoft site, you can watch. You can sort of view over there. But what I have over here is basically your AZ900 domain area is divided into three different areas. One is the cloud concepts, then you have Azure architecture and services, and then you have management and governance. We have already covered cloud concepts, which is like 25 to 30%. What we are doing currently is Azure architecture and services. Oh, you have different modules within it. So today we are going to be covering the identity management, and then we have Azure management and governance. So that's about it. Okay, so these are the series. So like we aim for 5 sessions. Today is the 4th session. We might have honestly 6 sessions instead of 5, because I am keeping the pace a little bit, something so that you can understand the topic. So there might be 1 or 2 topics that I would like to take towards the end. So we might have 6 sessions, but yeah, today is the session 4, where we are going to be discussing about Azure identity management. Quick recap as to what we have done earlier. So we have covered in the first session Azure, the introduction to cloud and Azure. We have understood cloud deployment models. What are the benefits of cloud computing? What are the different type of services provided? Again, what are the different type of cloud deployment models? We have covered that. If anyone wants to answer that in the chat, what are the different type of cloud deployment models? We have discussed about benefits of cloud computing, like why to go into cloud. So, okay, couple of guys, tell me, do you know what are the benefits of cloud computing for those who've attended this earlier? Write to me in the chats. Let me see. Just tell me any 1, 2 benefits of cloud computing, or even those who are attending it for the first time. What do you think could be benefit of cloud computing? Send me on chats. Let's see if you recall. Let me see. Cost efficient. Good. Yes. Let me see if someone's replying on save development time. Yeah, very good, guys. Good, good. Very good. That's nice. You have been following the sessions well then, after seeing your answers. quick deployment, availability, pay as you go, correct. Very good. Great, guys. Scalability, yes. So let me just sort of, jump, sort of just combine your answers and let me quickly say it out loud for the people who are not aware of it. So the different benefits of cloud computing: it is scalable, right? Scalable as in you can scale it up or down. You can do vertical scaling, horizontal scaling. You can increase the size of the resource, you can decrease the size of the resource, and it's very flexible. All right. Then it is the best part is it is very very cost efficient. That is, it follows a pay as you go model. That means you have to exactly pay for the resources that you're using, right? So it works on consumption based model. So that's one. And then it is highly available, so you have data centers across multiple places in the globe. For example, if I specifically talk about Azure, it is pretty secure. It keeps its services up to date. So that's one of the advantage, right? All of that stuff. Guys, I'm getting a few questions on the chat. I would answer it towards the end. All right. Okay. So those are a couple of benefits of cloud computing. Glad to know that you guys have answered on the chats as well. Then we have discussed about different services that are provided. All right. In the second session, we discussed about Azure Compute Services, where we discussed about different categories. I gave you guys an idea about how Azure portal works. How can you sort of yeah, yeah. I'll take the question towards the end, please. Okay. I gave you an insight of Azure portal and then how Azure portal typically looks like. We deployed virtual machine. We discussed about what is virtual machine. We what else we did? We hosted a website, okay, on the virtual machine. So we did that as well. So all of those demos were shown on the second what do you call it? Second session. And in third session, we discussed about Azure storage. That was the last session, like the previous session, basically. We discussed about different type of Azure storage options. We did demos on, a hands-on demo of creating blob storage. And then we also did, we created some shareable drives and stuff. So that is all the stuff that I've completed. And the second and third session were like really practical. I ensured that we have hands-on demos so that you guys understand. All right. So all of that was covered. Again, in case I saw someone's question on the chat that I'm attending this session for the first time, is it okay? It is okay in a way that yes, that's the reason I've given this brief so that you're not too new to it. Having said that, I'll still recommend you guys to go back and just watch the sessions. The recording is there, and then reach out to me on LinkedIn for any other questions, right? So I recommend you to please watch it. We have exhaustively covered, topics with proper demos and all as much as possible. So I would recommend you guys to sort of go and watch. And yes, if this is your first session, be here. I'm trying to, make you understand from scratch. So I don't think so you should be having any issue. All right. I hope you answered your question. I think it was Rishabh who asked this question. All right. All right, guys. Now going ahead with the next topic. That is the topic for today's session. So we have done this recap. Now I'm starting with today's topic. So first is Microsoft Entra ID. Understanding what is Microsoft Entra ID. So Microsoft Entra ID is basically a system which helps us check as to who you are, and then based on that it decides what you are allowed to do. Got it? Who you are and what are you allowed to do. Microsoft Intra ID is in a way, it is like a gatekeeper, you can say. Okay? Or it is that centralized place where it ensures that only the authorized people, authenticate people are actually entering the environment, and then based on that, they should be provided the access. All right? I'm just seeing the questions in case anyone has it. Okay. Next, Now the thing is that why does this Microsoft Entra ID matters? So as I said, because it really checks that whosoever is entering is authorized. So it really stops the unauthorized access. That is the reason it is really important. It ensures that only the authorized people are entering, and therefore it makes your environment very secure. So that is the importance of it. It gives very fine grained access to the people, right? And it is like a centralized management that Microsoft Entra ID does. Got it? I hope this concept is clear to everyone. All right, great. Now coming on to the next topic, that is okay. So this is how your Entra ID, you have users, groups, and you can do the management. All right. Now, what are the different ways of doing the authentication? So, first thing first, let's understand that what is, I'm sure you guys know what is authentication. So, authentication is basically the process where you can basically it's the process which establishes the identity of a person, right? It basically requires the person or service or device to provide some type of credential to ensure or to prove that who they are. So authentication is basically the process of establishing the identity of a person, just ensuring that the person is the one who he is claiming to be. That's authentication. I'm sure you guys are aware of that, right? Now, what are the different type of authentication modes? So in Azure, so the first one is SSO, that is single sign-on. What single sign-on basically does is that it enables the user to basically sign in one time, and then it use that credential, and then use that credential to access multiple resources and applications. Right? That is single sign on. That is SSO. And why it is like one of the methods for authentication as well, because you just need to remember one ID and one password. Got it? So with one person, one identity is associated. Having different passwords and different usernames is definitely difficult to manage. We all know that, right? What happens with single sign on is that you basically have one identity associated with the person, which has one ID and one password, and based on that, you can access across applications, right? So basically, based on that single sign on credentials, access across the different application is granted to a single identity that is tied to that particular user. This definitely simplifies the entire security model as well. Okay, because it's easy. If you need to revoke someone's access or provide someone access, it's just one identity with which you need to handle rather than having 10 identities associated with the same user. Hope this is clear. Next is MFA, multi-factor authentication. Definitely you guys are aware of it. As I said, some concepts are, I'm sure you must be already aware of it, but still, multi-factor authentication is basically a process. It is like an extra layer upon your normal, authentication. So it basically prompts the user for an extra form of identification in the sign-in process. Right? So, and that second, it's like to ensure that multi-factor authentication basically increases the identity security of that person, right? So for example, if it can be asking for some challenging question, something the user knows or something the user has. It could be some notification, it could be some challenge question or something of that sort. So it could be anything of that sort that can come, right? Like if we see those codes that are sent to our phone that we have to enter after putting the password in some site. So that is like MFA, multi-factor authentication, just to ensure that even if the password is compromised, that second thing is not compromised, right? That's like an additional authentication process to ensure that your security model is very strong enough and the right person is entering and this right person is being provided the correct access. So that's MFA. The third one is passwordless authentication. Now, SSO and MFA, sorry, single sign-on multi-factor authentication is definitely a great way to secure, one's. It's a great secure way, right? But at times, what happens? It's difficult to manage your passwords and usernames and etc. etc. So then we come up with a third option, that is passwordless. So passwordless authentication basically needs to be set up on a device in a way. So for example, if you are associated with a device and the device knows that this device belongs to this person, that once that person has been registered or enrolled to that device, then you can actually access anything via that device, because now Azure knows that this is associated with you. And now that since that computer is known to you, so once you provide something, you know that you can be authenticated without a password because that computer is associated with you. So that is what is passwordless, right? So these are there are three different ways of basically authentication: SSO, MFA, and passwordless. I hope these concepts are clear. All right, coming up with the next thing. So what we have actually discussed right now, I have this um, graph sort of thing which actually tells the feasibility of each every um, authentication ways that we've just discussed. So you have something known as passwords, or which is convenient but it is slightly lower security. Then we have passwordless authentication, which we have recently discussed. The third one, which is convenient because you don't have to literally remember so many IDs or credentials, and it is also higher security. And if you have something known as passwords plus two-factor authentication, definitely it is highly secure, but it is slightly inconvenient. So this is what we have discussed right now, and this is your concept to it. All right. I hope this concept is clear to you. Going on to the next slide. Okay, what is Azure external identities? So external identity basically means anyone who is outside from the organization. It could be a device, it could be a person, it could be an app, service, anything, literally, right? So any user or device outside of your organization is external identity. There's something known as Microsoft Entra external identity. That basically means that what are the different ways by which you can securely interact with anyone who is outside of your organization. All right. If I talk about external identities, they're a little bit similar to that of, they might sound similar to that of single sign on. What happens with external identity is that users can bring their own identities, and on that basis, um, they can sort of have their own credentials to sign in. The external user's identity basically provider manages their identity, and you can manage the access to your apps with your Microsoft Intra ID. So that is how external identities work. So if in a nutshell I need to iterate this, I would just say it basically means any user which is outside of your organization, and what are the ways through which you can actually let them access or securely interact with the users outside your organization. In a nutshell, that is what external identity is all about. All right. Coming up next is conditional access, right? So what is conditional access? um, Now one thing that we need to understand is, sorry guys, just having a little bit bad throat. So conditional access is basically a tool that Microsoft Intra ID uses to either allow or deny the access to resources based on the identity signals, right? Again, reiterating, it's basically a tool that Microsoft Intra ID. I told you, right? What is Microsoft Intra ID? It is like a centralized management manager, right? Which ensures that who is authenticating and is that the right person or not, and what type of access should be provided. So that is what is Microsoft Entra ID. I'm explaining you in layman's terms so that your concepts become strong. So conditional access is basically a tool that Microsoft Entra ID uses to grant or revoke the access to the resources based on the identity they provide. It provides a more granular MFA authentication as well. For example, if they think that there could be a possibility that a user is not asked for a second authentication if they think that they're at a known location, or there could be points where actually user is asked to do a second authentication again if maybe they are signing in from an unexpected location, right? So all of these things happen based on the conditional access. As you can see, this is how all the decisions and all are made, right? This is how conditional access typically works. Then we have something known as Azure RBAC. RBAC stands for Role Based Access Control. As the name suggests, role based access control. That means the access is granted on the basis of the roles. Sorry, guys. So the access is basically granted on the basis of the role a person is performing, right? Now, there's something known as principle of least privilege. That basically means that um, the principle in which you grant the access is like grant the access exactly what things that a person would be doing or the role that person would be playing in Azure. If someone is developer whatsoever, right? So that is what is the principle of least privilege means. And what can we actually do with RBAC is role-based access control, which typically means, as I said, this basically ensures that only the right type of access is provided to the corresponding person who's performing that type of action or task, right, on Azure. So as you can see here on the right side as well, there's a screenshot. And here on the screenshot of the people who are attending this for the first time, let me explain this portion to you, which I'm sure I've done it last time. I mean, the second session. So how Azure infrastructure is. First is the management group. Management group is okay. No, let's start from here. So building block of Azure is a resource. Okay. For I know some people are attending this for the first time, so let me put it this way. So the building block of Azure is basically um, resources. All right. And after resource, you need a resource group to deploy the resource, right? Resource group is nothing but just a container which contains the different type of resources. Depends on you, how do you want to create resource group and how do you want to bundle the resources within it. But resource group is basically a container of all the resources. Then you have subscription. Subscription is the one that contains the resource groups. Resource group is the one that contains the resources. This is how it looks like. And then we have management group. Management group is actually a container of subscription, or a container. It is basically bundles up the subscription. So that manages, it's like, see, if you see this small thing, it is like one management group can have multiple subscriptions within it. One subscription can have multiple resource groups within it. One resource group can have multiple resources within it. So last thing, like we deployed Azure storage account. Prior to that, we deployed Azure virtual machine. All of these are, yes, these are VMs, these are Azure storage accounts. But at the end of the day, these are resources on Azure. Everything we deploy, every service we deploy, it is like a resource on Azure, right? So when we talk about access or RBAC, that is role-based access control, we are talking here on these items, right? I hope this is clear. Okay, the next up is zero trust model. Okay, zero trust model is basically a scenario where we have to actually assume the worst case scenario, right? In terms of security. So we have to assume the worst case scenario, and then on based on that, we we sort of grant this. We work on the security model, right? So zero trust basically assumes the breach at the outset, and then it verifies that each request as though it is originated from an uncontrolled network. So that is how zero trust model works. So in a nutshell, think of the worst case scenario in terms of security breach, and then from that perspective, this model actually works. So we have three things inside this. The first is verify explicitly. That means always authenticate and authorize the resources, the user, anyone. Always do that. The second is use least privilege access, as I just mentioned. What is least privilege access? I've already explained. So incorporate that and then assume breach. As I said, it always thinks of the worst case scenario. So think, assume about the breach, and then based on that, minimize the blast radius and segment access. Okay, verify the end-to-end encryption, use the analytics to get the visibility, drive the threat detections, and improve the defenses. So that is what is assumption of breach means. Okay. Now adjusting, if we have to adjust to zero trust model, so if you see this diagram, this is a small screenshot that I've put over here. So secure your assets where they are with zero trust. So instead of thinking that all the resources, for example, traditionally if you see that every corporate networks or anything, they all are restricted and protected, right? And we always assume them safe. But then the zero trust model, it actually flips the scenario. What it actually does, instead of assuming that a device is safe because it's within a certain network, it actually requires everyone to authenticate. So this is the ideal scenario, which in general happens, but in zero trust, we assume this, that even if it is within a certain network, have everything do the authentication. So that's like a zero trust model. Here is where assume, breach, and verify explicitly comes into the picture. I hope this concept is clear as well. Okay, guys, I'm assuming it's clear. You can read more about it. Okay, it's like theory, so it isn't something that it's doesn't require that much of practical knowledge or practical demos for it. It's just theory, so you can go ahead and sort of do some of homework on it as well. But I'm covering this so that you know that we have covered this and you have some understanding before you actually dive more deeper into it. Okay, there's something known as defense in depth approach. Have, like, I don't know if you guys have heard of this terminology or not, but this is pretty common if we talk about security models. So what happens is, like, if you see this, you actually see this. So this defense in depth approach basically means that it is the data that is the last one. This is something that needs to be protected, and in order to protect this, we have multiple layers through which one has to um, come in order to access the data. It's like that. All right. So data is to be secured. The aim is to secure this, and all of this is actually like a protection layers to it. That's how you can think of. The very first protection layer is actually a physical security layer. That is the first one. This first line of it is the first line of defense, which basically means it protects physical. That means it protects the computer hardware in the data center. You know what is data center? I've already explained. That is where your resources are hosted. Different data centers and different resources are hosted over there. The second is identity and access. So ensure that the right users are entering. So this basically manages the entire access. It controls access to the infrastructure. Then you have something known as perimeter. Perimeter basically uses DDoS, right? Distributed denial of service. It uses DDoS protection to ensure that uh, it basically performs the filtration of large scale attacks. Then we have network. Network layer is basically the communication, which communicates between two resources, right? So this limits the communication. So network layer basically limits the communication between two resources. Compute, we have already discussed compute in the section 2, that is virtual machines. One example, so this is compute layer that secures your VMs. We have application. This ensures that your applications are secure enough. And then towards the end, we have the data that is actually needs to be secured. This is your data layer. All right. So I think someone is unmuted themselves. Can you please mute if you don't mind? All right. Thank you. So again, so I've given you one line explanation of everything, but let me just give you some real world, maybe examples or something more to make it more relatable. So when I talk about physical security, that basically means that ensuring that you know to the buildings, ensuring that access to the buildings is secure, or access to the compute hardware is secure within the data center. That is the first line of defense. And the second one is identity and access. This is all about ensuring that your identities are secure, right? Basically, who needs to be granted access, what access needs to be granted, and all of that stuff. This comes in identity and access. And the third one is parameter. Okay, here is where your SSO comes in. Here is your multi-factor authentication, MFA, comes in, which we have just discussed. Then comes the perimeter, as I've already told you. This is all about DDoS, all right, which basically protects the network-based attacks against any of your resources. Then you have network. Network basically limits your network connectivity across the resources to ensure that only those resources accessing the other one which is actually required. So there is no additional unnecessary access provision between the two resources. I mean, between there's no extra communication. Then we have compute. This is all about like virtual machines, ensuring that this basically focuses this layer focuses on your compute resources, ensure that they're secured. And then you have your application. Application basically ensures that your entire think of your development life cycle, right? So it basically ensures that you integrate your security in the development life cycle properly to ensure that there are no vulnerabilities. And towards the end comes your data. And in data also you can ensure that where to store, how to store, control the access and all of that stuff. Okay, so here is where your data comes in. The idea is to protect the data. Store where the data can be stored, all of that stuff. So one layer is this as well, and then it can be protected as well. So that is what your defense in depth approaches. Um, Okay, and then we have something as Microsoft Defender in cloud, Defender for cloud. Sorry. So this basically is how should I say? It's like a monitoring tool in a way, which I've already mentioned. Okay, and for security posture management and threat protection. So in case there is any, it basically monitors your cloud environment properly. Your cloud on-prem or even hybrid or even multi-cloud for that matter. So it sort of monitors that well, and this basically provides a different type of tools to sort of track the security posture of your resources. Okay, so that is what it does. It's a monitoring tool, so you can think of it how it actually works. That's how Defender works. It works on Azure native resources, hybrid resources, and even multi-cloud resources, as I've mentioned over here. Right? Um, that's pretty much what Defender for cloud means. And with that, I think we are okay. This is long lyrics. This I'll cover in the next session. So that was pretty much it in today's session. I said it's going to be simple. It's more theory. And Actually, just give me 1 second. Let me take you here real quick for those who are attending the session for the first time. And you guys actually see the what you call sessions later on. You want to see how to practice those demos. And also firstly search for Azure for students on the net, see if, how you can get the Azure credits, avail the credits for students. And once you do that, then this is azureportal.com. So whatever practicals we have performed on storage, on virtual machine and stuff like that, everything was actually performed over here. All right, as you see, we created a virtual machine. I think we have deleted that, but yeah, I have some virtual machine I think created. This was the one I created. Not sure if this was, yeah, this is the virtual machine how I created. Okay, so we discussed about connecting to this virtual machine. How do you restart, stop the virtual machine? How do you have the disks attached to the virtual machine? We discussed about all of that. Okay, so this is one of the storage ways. And on this virtual machine, after connected, we actually ran a website as well, hosted a website. We did all of that stuff. Then we created a storage account. I don't think so. This is the one that we created, but yeah, I have already one created. So just giving you a demo. So I created a blob storage. Let me see if I already have that in. Yeah, I created blob storage. These are different type of storages. Okay, blob, file, queue, tables, and disks. What I showed you over here on the virtual machine. We created the blob storage. We created file shares as well, and then I mounted a file on the virtual machine to make it two-way shareable drive. See, these are shareable drives that I created, which are reflecting over here. So all of that stuff. So it was pretty exhaustive, comprehensive sessions that we had last 2 times. I mean, last 3 times actually. And yeah, someone is asking, can you please? Okay, guys, yeah. So this is pretty much about the session. So in case you have any questions, just send me on the chat. I'll take question for the next 5 minutes. Someone is asking, can you please share the link? I don't have the link to the previous session, honestly, but you can just go onto the IITM BS degree official channel, and you can just search for Azure or something over there. You will get the sessions. I don't have those handy. If someone has it handy, please feel free to send it to Anam on the chats. I mean, today's session was all honestly simple. The topics are simple. Let me just stop sharing my screen so that. So let me see if I have that handy. But I don't have it handy. I just go on to that session, and someone is asking on the chat also on the live. But yeah, I don't have those. Any other questions? If you don't have any questions right now, that's fine because the concepts were, I explained them as well. Plus, you can also learn more about it and the Microsoft documentations and stuff. And if you have any, questions which comes in your mind later on, but I would really recommend you guys to, if you want to dive deeper into it, I would really recommend you guys to do these demos by yourself. Get the Azure credentials, apply it as a student with a student account, and yes, then perform these demos at your end too. To ensure that your concepts are pretty strong. You should be doing that if that's a suggestion, and then go through Microsoft documentations as well to learn more about it. All right, guys. So I'm not getting any questions. So I'm assuming that you don't have any questions as such right now. But in case you do have, I'll just give 1 more minute. Okay. If you have, just feel free to put it on the chats. And in case you don't have, that's fine. Reach out to me. Okay. Yeah. So someone is asking. Rishabh is asking, is there any exam?
I
Okay.
have
Yeah.
one
So Rishabh,
question.
yeah. Can we just please put in the chat if you don't mind? Just to because
Oh,
just to maintain it.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank
Okay.
you.
Not an issue. Okay.
So I
Thank you. I'll
Yeah, I'll just
skip
read
my
up the
question.
questions. Yeah, yeah. Feel free to put it over here. I'll answer your
Oh,
question.
or can I ask you?
Sure. Actually, it's like better to put it in the chats, but yeah, feel free to ask.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, my question is like, how do I use Microsoft Defender for the cloud to meet compliance and requirements? Because it's my first class. Before that, you already did 2 classes, but I did not attend. That's why I have some little bit doubts.
I do understand that, Sabina. Thank you for asking. So,
Mm,
since it is your first session, firstly, I would really recommend you to watch the previous sessions, because as we
okay.
talk about monitoring the tools on Defender and all, so it's like monitoring
Mm,
tool, as I said, but again, it is like in association with the resources, right? At the end of the day, so resources such as
yeah.
storage or compute, what we did, like, right? So I would recommend you to
Mm,
watch the previous sessions because monitoring tool is like monitoring something that you've already deployed, right? So I would recommend you to first actually watch those sessions if you have sufficient time. As I
mm,
said, the whole idea is to take you through the majority part of the course of AZ 900. So we have already covered compute and storage, and then I've landed up to this topic. So I would recommend you to watch the previous sessions. It's on the YouTube. I don't have the link handy, but you can search for it. Or if someone has it, maybe Mahesh sir or someone, if you can just send them on the chats, that's going to be helpful. But yeah,
From
I think
where
once
Can I?
from where I can get this previous session link?
it's on the YouTube, it is IIT Madras BS degree YouTube channel.
Okay.
You can see in the
Okay,
live
not an
section.
issue. I'll
No,
Yeah,
I'll try to find it.
yeah.
ma'am. Can you exactly say which session can we watch about this?
So we have done 3 sessions. The first one was basics to cloud computing. The second one was about virtual machines, compute infrastructure. The third one was about storage, and the fourth is about all of this security stuff. So I mean, depends to which topic. I mean, if you already know the basics of cloud, then start with the second or the third session. Dive into that.
Oh,
But my whole idea was, yeah.
especially for third session, right, ma'am?
Sorry,
Especially we should watch regarding Defender third session, right?
which session? I didn't get you.
Third session.
Yeah, I mean, watch the second or the third at least. And the first one is, yeah, basics. I mean, ideally, you should be watching like first, second, third, but yeah, depending on 1 hour sessions are there. So, yeah. And as I'm doing demos, you can just do it side by side with you guys. All right. Okay. So, now I'll take up the questions that are on the, no problem. Now I'll take up the questions that are on the chat. So, please, guys, try to send the questions on the chat itself so that I don't miss anyone's chat. Therefore, I prefer to answer through chats. Okay, so I do see a question. Is there any exam to get certificate? Yeah. So Rishabh, this is AZ900 series that we are doing. AZ900 is an exam by itself. This is conducted. It's a Microsoft exam, and it is a proper exam, certificate exam, where you have to sit for it, and then you have to take that exam. Okay, so it has certain, whatever it has, Q&As and all, which you have to answer, MCQs and all. And the course for that is what I've showed you in the beginning, the first slide, plus you can search for it as well on the net, on the Microsoft official site. You can search for it. So it is a proper, it's not an assignment submission, it's a proper exam. Okay. It's Microsoft certification basically. The fundamentals one. So one is asking Microsoft ASA 900 certification. After clearing this exam, which certification should I do? Um, Again, so depends. Azure 900 is a fundamental certification, um, and then depends. After that comes the role-based certifications. If you want to become DevOps engineer, you have DevOps. Then you want to become Azure administrator, you have AZ104. Then it becomes role-specific certifications. But your basic is AZ 900, which is like the basic one, and post that you have role based. Role based depends. That is the reason when you have once you've done exam 900, you have some hold on it as to what interests you, and then based on that, you actually based on that you can actually move further. But yeah, for example, you have AZ104 certification, all right, Azure administrator, then you have DevOps, but it all depends on your interest. What's the field you want to get into? Someone is asking, can you share the Azure portal resources? Yours one are not able to. Yeah, you won't be able to see my resources on your portal. The one was Chotu Kumar. You won't be able to see that on your portal, what I have created. Your portal, you have the access to your portal, not mine. So you would have to create resources by yourself. You won't be able to see my created resources on your portal, all right? You have to create your resources by yourself, but yes, you can refer to my lectures to take that as a help to create your resources, be it virtual machine or storage. All right, guys, any other questions? I'll try to do a Q&A session as well. I know there's some generic questions, so I'll take it up over there, but at least we do have at least one session. I think that's going to happen. I don't know, that's happening on the 29th November, maybe, if I'm not wrong with the date. Yeah, I think that's 29th November. It's most probably you'll receive a mail from my team whenever it happens. So we're going to be having 1 or 2 sessions more, and I'll give some time for Q&A even for the generic ones. All right. I hope I've answered all the questions. Let me really quick have a look on the. Okay, so I don't see any questions on the chat as such. So Rishabh, you're gonna get the schedule from IITM. So as I said, it's 29th is the planned session. Then we're gonna be doing one more after it. That we'll see when it happens. All right. But as of now, I think it's 29th of November. The next
Yeah,
one.
ma'am. Can we know about session 5? What is the main motto about it?
That's the last. Actually, it's not the last. It depends. Either that would be the second last or last session, depending on the topics how much are left. So basically, it's the as I said, it's the course of AZ 900. So I think there are 2 more topics that I need to cover. So it's going to be that. It's going to be more from Azure management and governance perspective. Then how do you deploy resources on Azure? What are the different ways? Yeah, and the different type of monitoring tools. All of that stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. All right, guys. I hope I've answered your questions. And just in case you have any other questions, I think I've answered all. I'll just give 30 seconds more. If not, then feel free to send me the questions on LinkedIn as well in case you have anything after that. And I'll answer your questions. All right. And prepare and just since after 2 weeks we're going to be having sessions, you'll have good time to go through the videos that we have done earlier. All right, I think we are done. Thank you so much, guys, for attending this session. I hope it was insightful. And yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn if you have any doubts. Feel free to ask me any questions. And yeah, feel free to give me your feedback as well. More than happy to take that. All right, thank you. Thanks also to IITM team. Um, Thanks for this collaboration and always great to take these sessions and support everyone in the cloud journey. So, thank you. All right. Someone is asking, can I get your email ID? Guys, if you have any questions, you can just send me on the on LinkedIn. All right. So you can just connect me on LinkedIn and send me the questions over there. I think that's sufficient enough.
Yeah, what's your LinkedIn profile name?
It's Navika Choda. I'll just send over here. This is the name that I've sent in the chat. I also keep on updating about these sessions over there. So if you're connected with me on LinkedIn or you follow me, so you will be able to see those updates. All right. Great, guys. Thank you so much. And see you all in the next session then. Thanks to the IT team as well for conducting this. Thank you. Bye bye. Manisha, I think you can stop the stream, the live stream. I think we are good to close the session today.